The end of July is upon us, and I have watched 5 movies, 5 new releases that I'm going to rank for you today. I like to yap, so let's get started. Coming in at number 5, it doesn't even come close. This is dead last, and this is the new Pete Davidson horror film called The Home. Alrighty, what can I say about this? It is a horror film. This is my first time seeing Pete Davidson do a more serious role, and like I said in my review, he has potential. There's something in his eyes that I see into his eyes, and I see something there. And I think with a better script, better direction, something can be pulled out of him and give us something actually good and solid. But overall, this movie, if you want to be able to fall asleep, if you need some melatonin replacement, try watching The Home. You know, it's just disappointing that this horror movie that is a pretty decent length, it just had missed opportunities. I think it explores some very interesting themes that are very relatable to our everyday lives, especially when you think about the different generations, the boomers and the millennials and Gen Z, and what it has to say about how, okay, well, I don't want to spoil it for you. It's just like a missed opportunity, and it was very disappointing. I actually saw this at a secret screening. It was one of the Scream Unseens that AMC does every couple of months for horror films. And this is definitely a movie that you do not even need to watch on streaming. Coming in at number 4 is I Know What You Did Last Summer, 2025. Don't you hate it when they name the requels the exact same name as the original films? That makes things confusing. You always have to put the year if you're searching it, if you're trying to binge it. Can we leave this trend in this year, please? So I really appreciated the humorous element that the director and writer Jennifer Caton Robinson implemented in this movie, because when you think back to the original 2 films, they're pretty much straightforward teen slasher films, but they're not really known to be very funny. But in this one, I think because they're trying to kind of go the Scream way and trying to make it sometimes meta, which it doesn't accomplish. It has many problems. I did find myself chuckling and laughing at some of the scenes in here, and I really found that really refreshing as you're breathing life into what is supposed to be an upcoming new trilogy. I don't know how that's doing box office wise, if that will actually happen, but you know, if you're gonna bring back a requel, you gotta bring back some of the old things that we like while also offering things that are new, and bringing in the humor I think was a really nice touch. I love seeing the OG characters. You have Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. as our OG cast members, and I have such a nostalgic affection for the first 2. And it's the reason why I actually have never seen the 3rd movie. I have no interest in it because the OGs are not in that one. So I was like, F that. So it was a real joy. I was fangirling on the inside, just like seeing them back in this genre that I love and back in this movie that I have affection for. So that is always fun to see. But the script of this movie, I think, has a lot of problems. There's just a lot of things that don't make a whole lot of sense, and I would have to spoil the movie for you to talk deeper into them, but just certain motivations that are left pretty questionable. And it does have an ending that I saw cause some discourse amongst the horror community. Some people are praising it, some people are calling it stupid. I'm still kind of just like in the middle of it. I'm so annoyed that I haven't made up my mind. I think ultimately I probably don't like it, you know? Things could be said about how certain things are played out just for shock value, and how certain things are just nonsensical and don't make sense, or you're just not really given enough information and enough meat on the bones to chew on it to make it taste good, you know? So I think that's where I'm at with the ending of I Know What You Did Last Summer. It's a requel that had potential, but I think ultimately missed the mark. Coming in at number 3, we have Superman. This is the summer of slashers and superhero films. So I went into Superman not really expecting much. I am what you call a very casual viewer, a casual fan of superhero films. I do feel like when I was younger, I had a lot more joy in my heart for them, or I felt a lot more excited for them. Because I still remember seeing Spider-Man for the very first time, the Sam Raimi one. I still remember watching the original X-Men live action films for the very first time. Those were movies that like I had theatrical experiences that I'll always remember, because it was so exciting watching these shows that were animated that I used to watch as a kid come to life on the screen with like real life people. That was exciting. And I feel like over the years, the light in my eye and heart has kind of died down for me. But I think that's true for a lot of people. Although I do know there are still massive comic book fans out there. I mean, Deadpool and Wolverine last year made $1 billion. But that very much feels like an outlier. It's very much like a fan event. It's like cameo porn, basically. But when look at the DCU right now. They are rebooting because, that era had more misses than hits. So now they're rebooting it, and this is the first movie that's coming out from that. We have Superman, and it's a movie that I thought was fine. I did not think it was terrible. I don't think it's the best thing ever, but keep in mind, I'm not a diehard DC or comic book fan. I watch a lot of these films just going in wanting to be entertained, and I am often left feeling like, well, okay, that was the thing that I watched, and I will move on pretty quickly. I probably won't watch Superman again unless I'm like watching it with a new person, or like I'm with some friends who just want to throw it on, or with family. Like, yeah, sure. Like, I can see myself watching it again, no problem, fine. But will I watch it on my own, just like chilling on a Saturday or Sunday? Probably not. But I thought David Cornsweet was great. I think the standout for me was Nicholas Hoult. I have seen some comments about his performance that it's kind of like borderline overacting, but I didn't feel that way at all. I think because this movie is so comic booky and it's so big and colorful and it's high energy, that his performance very much matched the tone that James Gunn was going for. So I think he is a standout for me for sure. I really like the Lois Lane interpretation by Rachel Brosnahan. I had some issues with how she kind of like disappears in the third act, but maybe that's me as a comic book fan. That's just a lot of times I feel just a little lost while I watch these, to be honest. I feel like I'm not in on the secret. It feels kind of niche sometimes. So I know a lot of people loved this movie, and there's been a few negative reviews on it, but I think it's ultimately been a win for the DCU. And I think next up is Supergirl, which I hear is a much darker tale. So I'm easily much more intrigued with that one. Coming in at number 2 is another superhero movie that came out in July from Marvel, and it is The Fantastic Four: First Steps. This is another superhero film that I gave a 3 out of 5 stars. I will say I do think I prefer it over Superman, and it's probably because it had a little bit more of a more serious, darker tone because of what they have to deal with in the movie. Basically, Galactus and Silver Surfer come into Earth 828 and basically let everybody know, hey, we're here to destroy you and peace out. So then our heroes of this world, the Fantastic Four, which it's not an origin story, they have to come together as a family and also with the rest of the world to kind of come together and figure out how are they going to get out of such an impossible situation. So I felt like for Fantastic Four, you really feel the stakes a lot more than Superman for whatever reason. And I think it's because in Superman, that city, which is Metropolis, it very much feels like they are so used to getting attacked every Tuesdays and Thursdays that, I just never really felt like the direness, the darkness, and I felt the craziness and the zaniness. And, if you are into that tone, I totally get why you would be loving Superman. But for Fantastic Four, you see Reed Richards and Sue Storm, they're just kind of like frightened and kind of going about how the heck are they going to solve this. And the entire movie is problem solving. And I've seen some comments from people saying that it kind of lacked some action. I would have wanted to see some more battles. But I think that's probably why I actually found it refreshing and kind of unique. Although I can understand wanting to see just a little bit more action, because for me, I did want to see more of Reed Richards' stretchiness. I was kind of like missing out on those powers. It's weird because you get to see everybody else on the team use their powers pretty healthily, except for Reed. You get to see him think a lot, and he stands in front of a whiteboard and speaks to you a lot. But it's a great performance, obviously, because it's Pedro Pascal, and he's a wonderful actor. So I'm always just kind of confused when I hear people say, Man, they casted Pedro. I didn't know how I was going to feel. Turns out he was great. We knew this. We knew he's a great actor. So I'm not surprised at all. I think he was great. And I have to say, the mid-credit scene did make me feel like that little girl again that I talked about earlier, about being kind of excited about what's coming to the future. Marvel has gained my interest into watching Avengers Doomsday that's coming out later next year. That's more than a year from now. But I want to know what's going to happen. How are these worlds and all these heroes going to come together to stop the big bad? Because, you know, Doctor Doom is coming. He's going to be tearing some shit up. And I want to see who's going to die, who's going to live. And they're bringing back the OG X-Men characters, which the X-Men are like my favorite. So I'm excited for that. Coming in at number 1 is a horror film. Shocker, I know. It is Together 2025, which stars real-life married couple Allison Brie and Dave Franco. I kept calling him David by accident in my review, which, by the way, I forgot again to tell you guys, I have reviewed all of these films except for one. I didn't review Fantastic Four, but I have done a review for all of the other films. And actually, the Superman one is the one that I did with my mom. And she's so funny and expressive. You need to watch that review if you want to know my mom's opinion on Superman. But back to Together. Together is a movie that I liked, but I wish that I had loved. It's at number 1 because I thought it was pretty entertaining, and I did give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And that's mostly because for a horror, and it's a body horror film. For a body horror film, it was very funny. And I think that is so... It takes like a really awesomely talented person to be able to write and direct a scene that can both be disturbing and gross, but also really freaking funny. It's definitely what I found a couple of times in Together. The reason that I couldn't give it a full 4 or even 5 is because I think it takes a bit for this to really gain my interest, you know? And I think as of now, it has like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. And a lot of people are calling it the best horror of the year. And I'm like, really? Together is the best horror of the year? It's certainly not the best horror of the year for me so far. Like, I mean, you will see in a later video, I love a lot more horror films than this one. But what I really appreciated was the themes that it explores. It is centered around this long-term couple, and it explores different themes like complacency and, you know, you get the feeling it's probably a relationship that should have ended many, many years ago, but they're just so used and comfortable with each other that they're just like in it, but feeling kind of like resentful and trapped. And all of this is expressed though through the gruesome horror that is going on in this story, which I don't want to spoil for you if you haven't seen it yet. I do think it's worth checking out, especially if you are a horror fan. If you've seen the teaser for it and it intrigues you, go out and watch it. For a body horror film, I did have a lot of images from The Substance in my head for certain scenes that were just popping up in my head, and I couldn't help it because The Substance was a movie that came out last year and it was so excellent. It was so perfectly done, in my opinion, that I just kept thinking, well, I think The Substance just did this better. Completely different films because they are exploring very different types of themes and there's different performances, and just the look of it is so different. It is that same niche subgenre that certain images are pretty similar, and they just kind of like reminded me of such like a great movie from last year. Yeah, it was good. It was entertaining. It was funny. It explored themes that I think a lot of people will be able to relate to, and they'll be able to kind of like probably see reflections of their own lives and be horrified by it. But yes, you guys, those are my 5 films that I saw this month. And August, I'm excited for a couple of new releases like Freakiest Friday. Is it Freakiest? Is it Freakiest Friday? I'm not sure. Oh, and Weapons. I cannot wait to see Weapons. But let me know what you are looking forward to in August, and let me know what movies you watched in July and how you ranked them. I cannot wait to hear from you. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.